So, you sent over some really interesting stuff this week about Alaska and Canada, about sovereignty.
Yeah, exactly. It's this proposed resolution coming out of Alaska, which is, well, kind of surprising given some of the national level talk.
Right, you hear about friction maybe, but this seems like the opposite. A state actively uh, reinforcing ties.
Precisely. So our mission today, basically, is to unpack this resolution. Why now? What's behind it? And what does it really say about that U.S.-Canada relationship, especially through Alaska's eyes?
Okay, fascinating angle. A state-level perspective.
Yeah, it's this Republican Representative Chuck Kopp who's behind it in the Alaska legislature. A joint resolution specifically affirming Canada's sovereignty. It definitely makes you pause and think, why would a state legislature feel the need to do that?
Okay, let's dig into that. Kopp's motivations. What's driving him here?
Well, he's been pretty direct. He actually said he doesn't support any trade war and annexation bid against Canada. Strong words.
Wow, okay, so he's explicitly referencing potential tensions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he framed this resolution as about restoration and reconciliation. He really emphasized the centuries-old ties.
Centuries-old ties.
Yeah, listening to his testimony, you get this strong sense that for Alaskans, Canada isn't just another country. He literally said they can't imagine Alaska without Canada. It feels very personal, not just political.
So the resolution itself, what's the core action it proposes?
The main thing is the formal recognition of Canada's sovereignty. That's the headline.
Symbolically important, then.
Very. But it also specifically directs that copies get sent out to the U.S. President, the Canadian Prime Minister, other key officials. It's meant to be a clear statement.
And Kopp connects this to history, you said.
Right. He stressed it's not just happening now out of the blue. It's built on, long-standing connections, cultural, military, and really importantly, economic ties.
Let's talk about those historical threads. What kind of things bind Alaska and Canada specifically?
Well, way back, before the modern border even existed, Indigenous peoples moved freely across that land, trading, sharing culture. The border came later.
Right, that predates the current political structure entirely.
Exactly. And then much later, think World War II, the Alaska Highway, there was a massive joint U.S.-Canadian effort. Started military, but became this huge economic link. That shared project built a lot of connection.
And that economic piece is still huge today, I gather.
Oh, absolutely. Alaska is really quite dependent on Canadian supply chains. We're talking fresh produce, dairy, packaged goods. A lot comes through Canada.
Like everyday necessities.
Totally. And Kopp pointed out, it's not small numbers. He mentioned around 20,000 Alaskan jobs are directly tied to the relationship with Canada. So when he says it's who Alaskans are, it's also tied to their actual livelihoods.
Okay, got it. Now, it wasn't just Alaskans involved in this discussion, right? Someone from Canada weighed in?
Yes, that's right. The premier of the Yukon, Ranch Belay, actually joined the Alaska Senate committee meeting via video call.
Oh, interesting. What did he have to say?
He expressed a real hope that this relationship could be protected. He talked about how they support each other, like during tough times, joint efforts fighting wildfires came up. Even things like participating together in Arctic sporting events. It painted a picture of real neighborly collaboration.
That practical, on-the-ground cooperation.
Exactly. And he also addressed the bigger picture, the trade stuff.
Ah, yeah. The tariffs and potential friction. What was Canada's stance, according to Pillai?
He was careful to say that Canada's responses, like tariffs, weren't aimed at the American people personally. It was about protecting their own economy. He strongly reiterated that Canada sees itself as a close ally, wanted to keep working together.
So trying to separate policy disputes from the fundamental relationship.
Seems like it. And it sounds like that message resonated in Alaska.
How so? Was there support in the Senate committee?
Yeah, the Senate President, Kathy Giessel, also a Republican, as she explicitly agreed with Premier Pillai. She even mentioned a personal connection, that her son is actually a dual Canadian citizen.
Oh, wow. That adds another layer.
Definitely. And it shows the support isn't just abstract. The resolution itself, it already passed the Alaska House, and now it's heading for a hearing in the Senate. So it has momentum.
Okay, so pulling this all together as we wrap up, what's the big takeaway from this Alaskan initiative?
For me, the really striking thing is how it offers this almost micro view of the U.S.-Canada relationship. It highlights just how deep and tangled those ties are at a regional level, the history, the culture, the economy. These things seem to exist somewhat separately from whatever national political winds are blowing.
Like a buffer, almost?
Maybe. Or just a different reality on the ground. It shows that the relationship is much more complex than just headlines about disagreements between leaders.
That's a really interesting point. It makes you wonder how often these local or regional connections paint a completely different picture of international relations than the national narrative. Something to think about how those different layers interact. Thanks for diving into this.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Glad we could explore it.